Prius. I apologize. We were having some technical difficulties with the recording, so we had to reset. And I sincerely apologize about that. So you were telling me about how you were feeling with the recent incident with Patrick's death. You want to just go a little further on that for me and
Yeah,
continue?
sure. I think I'm not sure who he is talking about to with this situation. Um, but I think I feel a bit of guilt that I should have picked up that something was wrong with him. Um, you know, looking over the last couple of weeks, um, you know, I did notice there was a bit of change with him, but I should have picked up more on that and maybe talked to him about it. He seemed a bit more sort of withdrawn. Um, Sometimes he looked a bit depressed, but I wasn't sure. Um, but I don't know. I just felt guilty that I probably could have done more if I sort of picked up on these trends that was happening with him over the last couple of weeks. Um, it's really difficult, dealing with a debt, with whether it's in a family or a friend. Um, it's a difficult thing to deal with.
Okay. So when you're saying there's clues you could have picked up on or things like that, and you're saying you're feeling guilty about this, so are you saying that you feel maybe if you had paid more attention, you could have done something to prevent what happened, or
Yeah, definitely. I felt if I knew something was wrong, maybe I could have, talked to him. If not, probably advise him to talk to someone else, like yourself, to get some sort of professional advice on how
mm-hmm.
to deal with whatever situation he was going through.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
yeah, yeah, I do feel that part of it, and as I mentioned, it's bothering me as well.
of course, okay. Of course. You mentioned that both you and Patrick were from Trinidad. Um, I'm not extremely familiar with the Trinidadian culture, but I have I know that in some Caribbean culture, mental health and things like depression and other mental issues are not really openly discussed, and can sometimes be maybe a little bit taboo. Do you feel that way about that? Do you think that maybe that could have prevented him from reaching out a little bit? Do you think that the cultural aspect could have anything to do with that? Because obviously I'm not Trinidadian, so maybe you
Uh,
can
yeah,
enlighten me a little bit about that.
yeah,
Or
I think with the male Trinidadian men especially, um, I think it's mostly with the older generation. I mean, he was probably around 55, 60, I'm guessing. Um, and I guess growing up during that time, they don't really talk about their feelings or emotions. Um, Most of the time, they try to, deal with their um, problem on their own. Um, I'm not sure if he even discussed this with his family or anything like that. But yeah, usually in the culture with that generation, they seem to keep a lot more in and really talk about it. I think part of it maybe, it's cultural, and part of it maybe he did not want to discuss or seemed weak or anything like that as well, too, that he couldn't handle
see.
his own um, problems.
So you think maybe he thought that by sharing his problems or his being vulnerable, he might be seen as weak, and maybe he would not have wanted that.
I think that's one way to look at it as well, too. Yeah.
Okay. Um, do you feel that way about mental health issues? Is that something that you're not really comfortable discussing, or seeing that you're from a younger generation,
Generation.
maybe?
You know what? To be quite honest, I never really thought about it till now. I know every year at work we have Mental Health Week, and we always there's posters at the workplace, and somebody usually talks about it as well too. Um, but again, with my emotions and what I'm going through, I really, yeah, I don't talk to a lot of people about it at home or maybe at work.
Okay. Is emotions and feelings and things like that things that you ever, so I guess you and Patrick weren't really talking about those kind of things. You said you were, sharing events that was happening in your life and things like that. Did you ever get to a deeper level?
No, it was usually general. It was usually about his kids at university and tuitions and his kids traveling or him traveling, to either Trinidad or England or something like that. We never really talked about anything more deeper on a deeper level. I'd say if things affect us. Most of the topics or conversations were pretty general, and yeah, I never really got into his emotions or anything like that, or even mine's as well.
So even though, I mean, you did mention you would still, you considered him a fairly close friend. That friendship still was, you considered him close, but the friendship still stayed to a like pretty superficial level.
Uh, well, yeah, it was close. Like we shared, at work we talk about work issues. Um, Anything that was going on that was work relevant, we discussed that. Um, and in terms of family and personal life, we never really got too deep into that. Both of us we always talked about, as I mentioned, about Trinidad, but we always would talk about the cultural events happening in Canada, like Carabana. And he used to play steel band, and we'd talk about steel band and stuff like that. We'd talk about like maybe the different type of music as well too. Both of us like calypso, so we talk about that. So those are the type of conversations we have. We never really talked about emotions or what we're feeling. A lot of it, like I've got young kids and he had kids in university, so we talk about, the expense and the things that his kids were going through as well.
Okay.
So
Okay. So you were close, but you didn't get emotional, or you didn't discuss feelings and personal things,
no,
which, from what I'm gathering, could be a cultural thing. Um, so that's definitely something we can look into. Um, I know you haven't been back to work since the day this has happened because of the weekend and all that. How are you feeling about going back to your office?
yeah,
Since
it's gonna be tough because, as I mentioned, he sat, next to me. So
Mhm.
yeah, just looking at an empty seat next to me, and uh, it's gonna be tough. I'm not looking forward to it, to be honest. And hopefully at work they would maybe move my desk or something like that.
Yeah,
I
so
would probably request to have that done.
request a change. Do you think you're feeling anxious about it? You feeling nervous? Or
I think it's
you
just
just
emotional
okay,
and grief as well too.
okay. Um, I know that his desk has been, in my notes, I know that his desk has been emptied of his personal belonging. Um, but that's certainly, if you think that maybe not sitting there right away is something that we can request for you. You
Okay,
think
yeah,
that
I would appreciate that.
if you don't, I can understand that. Um, so, how do you think this is affecting you? Do you think this is in terms of your family or outside of work? Have you been? It's only been a few days, but are you having issues sleeping? Are you having trouble with your appetite? Um, have you been able to discuss this with your family? Have you shared this, what had happened with them? How's that going?
Um, I've been in touch with some of my friends at work and been talking to them about it because they knew Patrick as well.
Okay.
I've spoken to my family at home. They didn't know Patrick as well, so there's only so much I could tell them.
So,
But I think that supported work with the other my other colleagues, it's good.
okay.
Um,
So you're finding it easier to talk about it with the people who knew
who knew
Patrick.
Patrick? Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, I think that's great. Just to go back into the feelings you were mentioning, and the fact that you were feeling guilty, um, and um, and because you were, from what I'm gathering, the person that was the closest to Patrick at work. Um, so that's maybe part of the reason why you have those feelings. Um, and but like you said, sharing your feelings and talking about your emotion is something that maybe from your cultural background you and Patrick would not have done. So I do think that dealing with those feelings is something that we can help you with here.
Okay.
What I'd like to know is if you would be willing to maybe come back again for another session. I'd like to review all this information with my professor, of course, and see what we can do and which direction we could take to help you out. The one thing I would be interested in maybe working on with you, Riaz, and it's because obviously I'm not Trinidadian, and there seems to have been a big thing that you shared with Patrick, is your cultural heritage in your community. It's something called a community genogram, and it's almost like a diagram where you put in a picture format and diagram format the different elements of your community and your culture and how um, your community is structured. And that's something that maybe we can work on next time if you would be willing. And that will help us both understand, me in particular, understand how your community function and understand a bit better where you come from. And by then, we also might have maybe a little bit more information about what happened with Patrick. Are you interested in finding out um, why he committed suicide or exactly what happened? Do you think there would be any closure if the family was willing to share that information with you? Or you're not comfortable? You think that's information that he wouldn't want you to know? Or how are you feeling about that?
No, definitely I'd like to know for myself. Uh, I don't know if it's the guilt part of it, but I'd like to know what happened and why it happened, and just to put some closure on it as well. To knowing what happened, what led up to it would be helpful for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Why do you think it would be helpful for you?
I think um, part of it is, like as I mentioned, the guilt part of it and the emotional part of it. It's really difficult now, um, finding out what happened and what led up to it and what sort of stress he was under and why he would have done that. Maybe it would, put some closure to myself, and also, uh, it would be helpful just to know what happened and why it happened.
Okay, definitely. Okay, well, I think that's great. I really do appreciate you coming in and meeting with me tonight. So you'd be willing to come in again and work on this and have another session and try to see.
Yeah,
I think that would be helpful.
that would be helpful.
Okay. Um, okay, well, that's great. We'll definitely pass that information on to your employer. And I know we've been advised that we're going to be very supportive of that process. I want to really thank you for coming in today, and we will be in contact with you shortly to book another session.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right? Thank you so much, Riaz.